The text is in the documents folder in Smart School, and you can pick it up there. I've made some notes to this text, but I'll run quickly through it just to show some of the vocabulary and some of the metaphorics. The reason why I chose this text is because it's exceptionally well made and almost of a literary quality. The idea here, as we only got to this in class like a short time or a short moment, to realize that the whole song is an allegory. Yeah, it's he talks about a girl, but he's not really talking about a girl. He's talking about hip hop, and hip hop is equated with the girl. That's a very interesting and nice move with regard to the fact that hip hop has always been perceived since the 1990s as a very unwomen friendly type of music. And Common here tries to revindicate hip hop by making hip hop into a woman. So if you have respect for hip hop, you will have respect for women. That's the underlying thesis here. Okay. Let me just quickly run through the text and maybe make some first-hand remarks or some preliminary remarks about hip hop. Is let me show you this. Yes, here's the Google Doodle about hip hop. That was like in 1917. You know, the main page of Google. They always advertise something which has an anniversary or which has to be reminded. And in August 11, 17, they celebrated the 44th anniversary of hip hop. You can read here the background, and you can even click this doodle, and then you can make some records yourself. Yeah. But as it is explained here, they point the birth of hip hop in 1973 already, and a Jamaican American DJ who went by the name of Cool Herc. Cool Herc. He did a back to school jam. Yes, they go back to school much earlier in America, right? At this address in the Bronx in New York. That's where hip hop originated during the 70s. These dates are always under discussion. If you want to have a look at Google Maps, here's Sedgwick Avenue. It's not really the nicest part of town. A lot of big buildings, Sedgwick Avenue. So it should have been somewhere around here that they organized this party and invented hip hop by just playing records and mixing them into each other seamlessly to create a sort of beat over which another guy rapped. Yeah? It's mentioned here. He played instrumental breaks and the crowd went wild. And his friend Coke LaRock hyped the crowd up with a microphone. So hip hop was born. That's the idea of hip hop. I'll post this link so you can mix some records yourself, because if you click it here, does it work at all? Yeah, we get a little clip, don't we? Yeah. Yeah. Does it work? Probably not over Skype. But anyway, I'll post a link. You can mix some records yourself. Okay. Going back into the text, the first few lines, yes, yes, y'all, and you don't stop, is a stock phrase used in hip hop, maybe by the rappers who want to get ready to do the raps and want to get onto the beat. Yeah. But it's also like a hallmark of hip hop. It comes back in a lot of hip hop tracks. So you immediately know what type of music you'll be listening to. Yes, yes, y'all, and you don't stop. It's the same as if you would have a fairy tale and the first line would be once upon a time. As soon as you hear once upon a time, you know we're going into the mindset of a fairy tale. I know what to expect. Yes. Same way with yes, yes, y'all, and you don't stop, hip hop, don't stop. These kinds of phrases, typical to start out the rap. Um, the same thing, yeah, you had the same thing in punk rock. If there were any fans of punk rock, Ramones and so on, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they go. But every song starts out with 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. That's what's happening in this first break in the sort of the chorus of the song, and then it's just also this, as that's one sentence he says, and to the beat, common sense will be the sure shot. It's always a trick for the rappers when they come onto the stage to try and mention their own name. If they mention their own name, that's the way they get famous because nobody else will mention them. So we have to put your own name into the rap. That's what Common is doing here. Yeah. Then we go into this allegory, this old style of metaphorical language, but it looks like it's just a story about a girl, right? It's not a story about a girl. The girl is hip hop itself. Um, this, if I have to give some other examples allegories, you could point to, for example, um, medieval romance. You know, there's a knight and he has to go and save some kind of lady in a castle. Before he can save the lady in the castle, he first has to go through the woods, and in these woods he will find a dragon. That is not to say that people in the Middle Ages believed dragons were real. It only meant the dragon is a representation of all the things he has to conquer inside himself before he can even go and save the lady. His own doubts, his own questions about him being a proper knight. That's what he has to conquer first. So the dragon in the medieval romance is not an animal. It's the adversaries in your own mind when you have to do something. Yeah. Also in the Bible, you have parables and allegories. There's the one about the prodigal son. In Dutch, we call it the verloren zoon. It's like this son who wasted all his father's money, but is still receives back at home with open arms. Well, it's not about a father and a son. The father represents God, and the son is maybe you, the sinner. The message is you will always be forgiven by God. Okay, let's see. So that's allegorical language. So when Common says here, I met this girl when I was 10 years old, it's not really, he didn't meet no girl, it's hip hop. I met hip hop when I was 10 years old, meaning, in fact, I got acquainted, or I got to know this kind of music when I was 10 years old, right? That's, in fact, the meaning of the sentence. And in that way, you can translate the whole song into a story about hip hop and Common story and experience with hip hop. Same the second line. You can say about a girl that she's got so much soul. But of course, that's what he's stating about the original hip hop. He says, what I love most about, and what I love most, let's make it like this. Original hip hop had so much soul. It was based on soul music, the old music from the 60s, Ray Charles, and you sure know how that sounds. Very melodical and sensual music. Okay. And that's when she was old school. She was old school when I was just a shorty. He is just a short guy. He's just very young. But she already is old school. So she has been around for some time. I never knew throughout my life that she would be there for me. He didn't expect not this girl to be there for him, but he didn't expect that hip hop would be an inspiration for him throughout his life. Okay. There's also a nice trick that he does here. We call it enjambment. In Dutch, we call it enjambement. It's when the line jumps. In fact, the sentence runs like this: Never throughout my life, uh, I never knew throughout my life she would be there for me on the regular. This is one sentence, and this all belongs together, but the line jumps, right? She would be there for me on the regular. She would be there for me every time and time again. Okay. Here's another nice comparison. This girl, the hip hop, is not a church girl. She was secular. Church girl, in the sentence we're talking about music. Hip hop is not a sort of a church music like gospel music is. It's a secular kind of music, non-religious kind of music. Okay, and it's not about the money. At least in the beginning, in this she's not about the money. She's hip hop is not about the money. Those studs was mic checking her. Is mean yeah, mic checking is when you take the microphone and you tap it to see if there's any sound coming from it. We were doing this at the beginning of the lesson. Yes, there are other guys, other studs, like beautiful guys or attractive dudes, also interested in hip hop, in the girl, right? They were mic checking her. Maybe there's a sort of sexual metaphor there, like talk, 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 and the shape of the microphone, of course. But I respected her. She hit me in the heart. I respected hip hop, and hip hop really did something with me. A few New York niggers had did her in the park. Another interesting line in the sense that, okay, this rapper Common has a relation with this girl, and it's kind of love relationship in some sense, yeah. So there's always sexual metaphors going on, but sex can be positive or can be negative. And sometimes sex leads to babies. So if you have sex with this woman called hip hop, maybe it brings forth a new hip hop track that also works in that sense. Okay. But New York is really the birth of hip hop. At Dither in the Park is an interesting phrase in the sense that they use like typically black language here. I want to point to that. Had dither in the park. On the grammatical exam or the grammatical exercises you would get at exams, you would never be able to write this without losing points. Yeah, a few New York guys had done her in the park, but you'll notice that black people more and more start to reduce the past tense into one form. They only use did, the past participle. I already said this in class. Maybe I'll have to say it again. I noticed this in the interview with Shaquille O'Neal about Kobe Bryant's death. He spoke like this, had did, and it was written down in an interview exactly like that. Okay, so language is changing, and black people are changing language, and there is more and more acceptance for this, right? She was there for me and I was there for her. Pull out a chair for her, turn on the air for her, and just cool out and listen to her. Yeah, listen to this girl, what she's had to say, but also, of course, we're sitting on a porch listening to hip hop. Yeah, sitting on a bone, wishing I could do her. Another sexual metaphor I tend to think, sitting on a boner, he has an erection. He really wants to get it on with this girl called hip hop. I wishing I could do her. Always meaning also do hip hop, create hip hop tracks. Yeah. Eventually, if it was meant to be, then it would be because we related. There was something between us. We got along, hip hop and me. He says, and she was fun when she come around, and he'd be geeked. Geeked is what maybe a young boy would feel like giddy and there's a beautiful girl coming around. He's all hyped up about this girl coming around, about hip hop. Yeah. Slim. I still have questions what the reference here is. Maybe it's a reference to Slim Shady, the Eminem track, original pure untempered, a down sister, a down to earth person, a down to earth kind of music. That's certainly what hip hop is. Yeah. We're sort of running out of time, I suppose. Um, this is part of what I would be able to say about this text. What you could do, and what I had planned, but we lost so much time in the beginning of the lesson, is to translate the second verse or the second part of the lyrics into statements directly about hip hop. We don't have time to go through all the references here. In this, here he talks really about how hip hop changed in the 90s. But I think we'll leave it at that for today. Let me just say that I've put this the lyrics in the documents folder for you to find. I've made all the notes that I talked about. Let me just stop sharing my screen for a second. Maybe we'll talk about another text next class if we get online a little faster. I really apologize about all the technical problems. But this is what it is. So I won't leave you with an assignment, which what my plan was to leave you with an assignment, but there's no time left. We'll see next lesson. We'll talk a bit more about the song by Brittany Howard. It's a shorter text, but it's interesting and confusing also. Okay? You can tell that I did some real effort to get a beautiful background in the hip hop alley here. It's not really important, but the only thing that's important is you don't see my mess behind me. Okay. Thank you all for your patience. That's it for today. Any questions?
No.
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 You understand the concept of what I try to explain? It's an allegory talking about two things at the same time. I'll post some notes about this so you have something to study. Okay?
All right.
Thanks so much for joining in today. And see you later. I'll try and plan it a bit more properly next time. Don't forget to try out the Google app. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.